The following program is a special presentation from Home Box Office.
A Saturday night, 1942. A crowded Boston nightclub. Suddenly, fire, explosive heat, billowing smoke. To get out, to survive, a mad scramble, a classic case of pure panic, unimaginable horror. There were 1,000 or more there that night, all to share 12 short minutes of terror and death in fire at the Cocoanut Grove. Flashback with host Eric Severide.
In late November of 1942, the people of the United States were ending their first year of a world war. In some places, the war had gone badly. Bataan, Corregidor were sadly familiar names. Still, our invasion of North Africa that month had excited our spirits. Wartime life in America was nothing like life in Europe. Our soil was safe. Bombs did not fall here. Many people had to sacrifice, but quite a few were getting rich. And war stimulates people. They look for pleasures more intensively than ever. Nightclubs were popular. One was the Cocoanut Grove. Just why things happened there that night the way they did was not clear for some time. And of course, it all could have been avoided. Our story is recreated from newspaper and eyewitness accounts of the fire and the people. Let us return now to November 1942 and the Cocoanut Grove Nightclub in Boston.
Boston enjoys a Saturday night. It is the era of swing and the big band sound. Couples dance to songs such as Chattanooga Choo Choo and try to forget the war. But it's not easy. Newspaper headlines, radio reports, and the movie newsreels are constant reminders. Less than a year ago, on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese launch a sneak air attack on the U.S. naval forces at Pearl Harbor. Our Pacific fleet is destroyed. Americans are shocked and outraged. Within 24 hours, President Roosevelt declares war. Within weeks, boys from all over America are fighting in Europe and the small islands of the Pacific. Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, and Corregidor become bloody graves for our American troops. By November 1942, tens of thousands of GIs have died, and the armed forces call for new troops. But the war is something to be forgotten on this Saturday night. It'll be music, dancing, and hopefully a few laughs. What better place than Boston's most popular night spot? Once a garage in Boston's downtown area, the Cocoanut Grove has been transformed into an elegant nightclub. Behind its revolving doors, customers find a tropical paradise. Artificial coconut palm trees, bamboo and rattan decorations lining the foyer.
Hi. Boy, it's crowded tonight.
Well, you were lucky to get in.
Justin Morgan and his fiancée, Joyce
This
Spector.
place is going to be crowded tonight.
Well, if you want a little peace and quiet, you ought to try the Melody Lounge. I don't think it's too bad down there tonight.
Oh, where's that?
Down the hall, down the stairs to the left.
Oh, thanks. Let's give it a whirl, huh?
Like so many young couples across America, Justin and Joyce will soon be separated by the war. For them, tonight is a special evening. Tomorrow, Justin ships out for the Pacific. The Melody Lounge, dimly lit, an intimate place to wait before being seated in the main dining room for dinner.
Look, they saved the place for us. Come on, let's go.
Oh, you know it.
Justin and Joyce find a quiet corner, a romantic place to say goodbye.
Excuse me, folks.
Seated next to them, this sailor and his girl are saying their own goodbyes. The war has changed the country's view of kissing in public. What better way to send G.I. Joe off to battle? It was somehow patriotic. The names of these two will never be known. Right now, they are merely a distraction to Justin and Joyce. But they will soon play a much larger and more critical role. As will this light suspended over their heads, buried deep in an artificial palm tree. It is 8:30 p.m. The main dining room. Here, Bostonians and their guests will soon enjoy an 8-course meal and be treated to a floor show for less than $10 a person. They will dine on oysters Rockefeller and rack of lamb and sample from a fine selection of imported wines. Elaborate decorations cover every wall, window, and door. Stacked in this narrow, dark hallway leading off the main dining room are extra chairs and tables needed to handle the gathering crowd. No one will be turned away. Shirley Leslie brought glamour, laced with a touch of naughtiness, to the crowd at the Cocoanut Grove. The beautiful cigarette girl, known to her friends and admirers as Bunny. For her and millions of women across the country, the war is changing their lives. Women learn to do without silk stockings and substitute nylon ones instead. Rationing stamps become a way of life, with meat, butter, and coffee in short supply. Millions of other women have flooded into assembly plants and shipyards, taking the place of their brothers, boyfriends, and husbands. Rosie the Riveter becomes the fabled heroine of the war effort at home. But on Saturday, the working women put aside their overalls for a night on the town. The crowd dances to the music of Mickey Alpert and his band. But to the management of the Cocoanut Grove, this was more than a place of entertainment. It was business, big business, and tainted with rumors of underworld connections. Charles King Solomon, gangland boss, purchased the Cocoanut Grove in 1932. A year later, he was gunned down by rival gangsters, and ownership passed on to his attorney, Barney Wolanski. Wolanski shrewdly promoted the club and polished its tarnished image. Under his rule, the Grove thrived. Barney Wolanski has just opened a third room at the Cocoanut Grove. The New Lounge. Among those in the New Lounge, Coast Guardsman Clifford Johnson, a farm boy from Missouri, and Estelle Balkan, a local girl he's met earlier that night at a USO dance.
I mean, we don't have swan boats or subway trains, but it's a nice place. You'd like it.
How do you like being in it? The Coast Guard.
Great. Great.
The war? Are you ever afraid?
Oh, no. I'm not afraid of the war. I'm afraid of the water. I can't swim. Well, they tried to teach me, but finally they just said, Johnson, we're going to have to keep you on the beach, run the radio. So that's where I am. How about another?
Sure. That would be nice.
Excuse me, bartender. 2 more, please.
Hi there. Anybody want to smoke?
Oh, no, thank you.
That's okay, Coast Guard. I can't stand them myself. Billy, can I have a drink of water?
Bunny Leslie's job as cigarette girl took her to every room in the club. She was one of the few who knew every side exit and every main entrance.
Well, you two have a really great time. I gotta get back to work. Maybe I'll see you later. Cigars?
This is a lot of fun. Thanks for taking me.
My pleasure.
8:45 p.m. The Melody Lounge is filled to capacity. Presiding over this room is bartender John Bradley. He has perfected the art of keeping his customers in a spending mood, keep the liquor flowing and at high prices. The clientele is a cross-section of Boston, a young banker from State Street, a Beacon Hill debutante, a working girl and her date, businessmen and local politicians, and everywhere, soldiers and sailors who gathered to enjoy their freedom before being shipped overseas from the port of Boston. In a corner of the Melody Lounge, Justin Morgan and Joyce Spector spend their last night together.
Now, I promise I'll come back in one piece. And I always keep my promises.
Promise me you'll always love me.
Oh, Joyce.
If the Melody Lounge is the place to talk, then the main dining room is the place to be seen. It is 9:15 and business is booming. Overseeing this room is the club's maitre d', Frank Balzerini. His job, to cut corners, cut costs, and build profits. To prevent customers from leaving without paying, all doors have been locked and covered with heavy drapes. One emergency door, in fact, has been welded shut. 9:25 p.m. The band gives Mickey the high sign that football fans of Boston College and Holy Cross have just arrived. The rivalry between these two colleges is legendary, and Mickey knows how to entertain the crowd.
I guess most of you out there know what happened over at Fenway Park this afternoon. Those of you who didn't hear, Holy Cross just somehow squeaked by Boston College 55-12. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we'll have to forget about the Sugar Bowl this year. You just got to hand it to those Crusaders from Holy Cross.
Earlier, on this cold and rainy Saturday, Boston College, recognized that year as America's finest college football team, was crushed by an underrated Holy Cross team. As luck would have it, fans from both sides would wind up that evening at Boston's hottest night spot. 9:48 p.m. A limousine approaches. Its passengers, two men who were at Fenway Park that afternoon, sitting in the cold and rain watching the football game. A last-minute change in plans has brought them here tonight. Hollywood cowboy movie star Buck Jones, in town to promote war bonds. With him, his Boston press agent, Martin Sheridan. Wartime America has called upon its movie stars to help in the war effort. The glitter of Hollywood adds its own luster as stars travel to promote war bonds. Everyone in Hollywood has been mobilized.
Oscar night at the Academy of Motion
Even the
Picture
Oscar winners of 1942 will be out on the streets of America selling war bonds.
High-filling Betty Grable and George Rath. Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell. Comedian Bob Hope awards comedian Jack Benny a special Oscar for his cigar-smoking Charlie's Aunt. Best Actress, ex-champ Ginger Rogers honors Joan Fontaine. Actor Award, Lieutenant James Stewart, last year's winner, presents the cherished statuette to Gary Cooper. He wins his Oscar for a vivid portrayal of Sergeant York. Miss Fontaine was
To the stars, winning an Oscar was not as important as winning the war. By plane, by train, or by jeep, they traveled across the country to raise dollars for defense. And tonight, a cowboy movie star has come 3,000 miles to Boston to do his part.
Mr. Buck Jones. All right, boys, keep in the heart of Texas. 1, 2, 3.
The arrival of Buck Jones at the Cocoanut Grove has the whole crowd buzzing. By all appearances, this Saturday night in Boston, 1942, will be a memorable one. Away from the excitement of the main dining room, Clifford Johnson and Estelle Balkan are making the most of his 24-hour pass.
And my little brother, Jimmy. How about you?
Well, I got 2 older brothers. They're in the Army now, overseas. And then there's my mother and my father. They're still home tending the farm. We're waiting for the next letter from Europe. How about another?
Oh, no. I'm still feeling the last one. It's so hot in here, I can hardly breathe.
Yeah. How about a walk?
Clifford, I have a better idea. Let's dance. They say that orchestra's really good.
Yeah, you mean the main ballroom?
Sure. We can just sneak right in. Nobody will know. Come on.
9:55. Estelle and Clifford join the crowd in the main dining room.
You know, Clifford, they say this used to be a hangout for gangsters.
Oh, yeah? Looks pretty safe to me.
Oh my gosh, I think that's Buck Jones over there, the movie star.
Well, I don't know. I can't see from here.
It's got to be him, he's so tall. Come on, let's go get a closer look. That is Buck Jones. Clifford, I just have to get his autograph.
I really don't think we should.
Hey, what are you two doing here? You find a table in this madhouse?
No, actually, we thought we'd just grab a quick dance.
Listen, I didn't see a thing, right?
Thanks.
Just watch out for the maitre d'.
Do you think it would be terrible of me to get Buck Jones' autograph?
I think maybe we ought to leave.
No, I hear he loves giving all his autograph. Here, I'll take you up there.
Oh, darn it, I don't have anything to write on.
Wait, here. Okay, take this. Now hurry back.
Oh, thanks. It'll just be a second.
Okay.
Estelle gets an autograph from a movie star. She explains to Buck Jones that her little brother Jimmy is a Buck Jones Ranger. 10:05 p.m. Clifford and Estelle return to the new lounge with Buck Jones's autograph.
Isn't it just the bee's knees? It'll make Jimmy so happy.
Oh, well, here, let me sign it, too.
Oh, no, you don't. Nothing doing. My little brother.
Okay, here. Excuse me, bartender. 2 more, please.
In the Melody Lounge, it's business as usual. Then, at 10:08 p.m., a small and apparently innocent event takes place. One that will set the terrible machinery of catastrophe in motion. The sailor and his girl seek greater privacy by unscrewing the light bulb overhead. The corner where they sit is plunged into darkness. It catches the attention of bartender John Bradley.
We're gonna have to put that light on, okay? Don't upset him. Be polite. But screw the bulb back there, okay? Thanks.
The ceiling fixture is buried deep in the leaves of the tree, impossible to see in the darkness. The busboy's response is quite natural. He lights a match. Some said this was how it started. But others claim there was a short circuit in the lamp. Nobody notices the first wisp of smoke. Just a few blocks away from the Cocoanut Grove, at the Warren Street Fire Station, the men of Engine 22 enjoy a friendly game of cards. Fire buff Ben Ellis is a welcome visitor on this quiet night.
Hope you're not playing for money.
At 10:08 p.m., an alarm is sounded. The bells ring out, 4245.
Stewart and Carver Street.
The Boston alarm code for Stewart and Carver Streets.
Well, come on.
The Boston Fire Department is nationally regarded for being best prepared to handle sudden disasters. Two weeks earlier, they were pushed to the limit, battling one of the worst fires in the city. The fire department marshaled all of its manpower to contain the blaze in East Boston in record-breaking cold. Commissioner William Riley declared that because of the war and the number of firemen being drafted, the Boston Fire Department was seriously undermanned. He warned that another major fire could result in disaster. 10:12 p.m. Engine 22 arrives at Stewart and Carver Streets.
What is it?
It's just a fire in the front seat.
Ah, is that all?
That's all. We'll have it right there.
To Ben Ellis, it seemed to be another uneventful night. Just 2 blocks away, patrons come and go. Fate would conspire that evening to divide people into 2 groups. Those who left the club before 10:12 p.m. through the main entrance, the glass revolving door, and those who didn't. In the main dining room, the dancers continue, unaware that tragedy is about to strike. The final seconds of a happy Saturday night, and for some, the final minutes of their lives. Fire in the Cocoanut Grove. The first to notice, Bradley and the busboy. And now, the others. The fire threatens to spread rapidly. John Bradley reacts quickly, pushing his way through the crowd.
Go upstairs and get your coat. I'll meet you.
Justin, please!
Don't be silly. I'll meet you upstairs.
Bradley, a busboy, and Justin Morgan attack the flames with towels, but to no avail. The fire ignites the satin ceiling material. Flames rain down on the crowd below. Fire, and now panic. The only apparent exit, the stairs leading up to the main level, to the foyer, and to the revolving door. Fire spreads through the building with increasing fury and into the new lounge. Smoke billows through the back rooms and hallways. In the panic and confusion, people run for the one exit.
Okay, I think we ought to borrow from one of the top hits of the
Mickey
day
Albert
now.
at first believes the disturbance is a fight.
Looks like we've got a
But in one ghastly moment, a giant wall of flame bursts into the main dining room. It seems to feed on nothing but air itself. Mickey pleads for calm, but his shouts go unheeded as the crowd stampedes for the exits.
Whatever you do! Hold on now!
Terrified men and women race for the same exit. The band heads for the stage door exit. The smoke carries deadly fumes caused by the combustion of plastic wall coverings and decorations. It is the smoke, not the fire, that will cause most of the deaths. Those who stumble are caught in the panic and trampled underfoot. Bradley desperately tries to direct the crowd away from the main exit and to a concealed door in the kitchen, which leads to an alleyway beyond. Just 35 follow him. They're the first survivors of the Holocaust. In the black smoke, Clifford and Estelle are separated. and others find the emergency door welded shut. The Cocoanut Grove resonates with the sounds of panic and terror, the screams of the dying. Inside, a chamber of unimaginable horror. And now, the night's most grisly moment. A mass of humanity storms the revolving door. It jams, becomes a coffin made of glass. At 10:14, 5 minutes after it has started, the fire breaks through and flares into the night sky. At 10:18 p.m. Boston City Hospital. Dr. James Mannery and Dr. Charles Lund return to duty. They have left a Thanksgiving dance being held for employees. It is a fortunate twist that because of the party, so many of the medical staff are still at the hospital. Soon, they will be called upon to handle the largest influx of emergency victims in the history of any hospital in the city. 10:22 p.m. The men of Engine 22 are the first to arrive. The rescue efforts begin. Many survivors are in shock, hysterical. Inside, the killing smoke now fills the hallways. The electrical system has shorted out. The Cocoanut Grove is pitched into darkness. In a corridor, Bunny Leslie is overcome by smoke. Estelle Balkan crawls through the darkness, trying to find an exit. She calls for Clifford, but there is no response except the screams and the roar of the fire below.
Estelle!
Only 12 minutes after the start of the fire, most of those trapped inside are dead. For those who make it to the streets, many are critically injured. Their scorched lungs are traumatized by the shock of the frigid air outside. Assigned to cover the fire for his Boston newspaper, photographer Steve Weeks arrives, the first journalist to record the disaster. But he will spend far more time helping the rescue effort than taking pictures. 10:28 p.m. Onlookers begin to crowd the area around the Cocoanut Grove. Citizens of Boston join emergency workers, police, and firemen to help the injured. It is now obvious that this is a tragedy of unprecedented dimension. Ben Ellis and Steve Weeks do what they can. One of the horrors that night, the pervasive stench of burned flesh. 10:30 p.m., the Red Cross arrives, as do hundreds of servicemen. But for some, it is too late. Twelve hospitals will receive victims that night. It was logical to send most of them to the nearest one, Boston City, just 6 blocks away. "10:35 p.m. The emergency entrance to Boston City Hospital. The first fire victims arrive. All available staff members are now on emergency duty. Among the victims, Coast Guardsman Clifford Johnson. He has plunged back into the inferno in the new lounge 5 times, trying to save a girl he has known just a few hours. He is now critically burned. more dead than alive. And now the victims pour in. Over 400 of them in less than half an hour. The first job, to separate the living from the dead. 10:40 p.m. Dr. Mannery appoints Dr. Charles Lund, medical commander of the hospital emergency room. Dr. Lund's first job, to get frozen plasma that has been stockpiled in the hospital laboratory.
How quick can you thaw those 500 units? Okay, as quick as you can. We need them in the ER and on the operating floor. As much as you got, right?
No, send them down to the hospital.
Plasma for shock. Triple dye gentian violet solution for burns. Morphine for pain.
Woman, second bed. Second degree chest anterior. Neck. Quarter-grain marker. Then dextrosaline IV.
Yes, doctor.
But the big killer that night is something more insidious than shock and burns. Suffocation due to lungs damaged by superheated air. Survivors are injected with huge pain-killing doses of morphine. Their foreheads are marked with an M to alert other doctors. But some will never leave the emergency room alive. Rescue workers continue to pull victims from the fire. Boston City Hospital is now overloaded. Across town, 114 casualties will be admitted in the next hour to Massachusetts General Hospital. As fate would have it, a heart attack patient rests here, unaware of the commotion beneath him. Doctors have ordered that this man cannot be disturbed. With good reason. The heart attack patient is Barney Wolanski, owner of the Cocoanut Grove. Downstairs in the emergency room, cowboy star Buck Jones. He is not badly burned, but the doctors are concerned that his lungs are severely damaged from inhaling smoke and fumes. At the fire, he has risked his life several times to save others. Now, his own life is in jeopardy.
Mr. Jones, you need some rest.
11:05 p.m., outside the Cocoanut Grove. Not quite an hour since the first wisp of smoke appeared.
There isn't anybody alive in there anymore.
God help them if they are.
Ben Ellis and Steve
I
Weeks.
can't even remember what pictures I took, if any.
Oh, you got a few. Probably not enough for your editor, anyway.
Well, I better get back and develop these, see what I got.
Yeah, there's nothing else we can do here.
11:10 p.m. The first rescue worker enters the blackened ruins. Hoping that there may still be signs of life here, he scans the room carefully, looking through the rubble.
Hello? Hello? Come on, folks, everybody!
He finds instead a gruesome sight. Corpses still seated on bar stools and chairs, dead from asphyxiation.
Hey!
In the privacy of his own room at Mass General, Barney Wolanski cannot escape the chaos in the corridor beyond his door.
What's your problem? You okay?
I'd like to know what the hell is going on out there. Guy can't get any sleep.
There's been a fire. Very bad. Hundreds dead. We got our hands full.
Where? What happened?
The Cocoanut Grove Nightclub.
Oh, no.
At Boston City Hospital, most of the burns are third degree and require delicate handling. Clothing has fused to the skin. Separating them is a painstaking process. The use of plasma and serum albumin will save many lives. But in spite of these treatments, doctors will witness suffering on an unprecedented scale. 2 a.m., Sunday, November 29th. It is 3.5 hours since Clifford Johnson's last attempt to rescue his date Estelle from the raging furnace of the Cocoanut Grove. 55% of his skin is burned, most of it third degree. The gaping wounds are treated with an antiseptic solution that forms a crust around the exposed flesh. Dr. Lund can hardly believe that Johnson is still alive.
Keep him on plasma IV. Give him another quarter grain if he becomes conscious.
His blood pressure and pulse rate indicate deep shock. Charles Lund does not expect him to last the night. No burn victim has ever survived even half this much injury. 3 a.m. Sunday morning. Photographer Steve Weeks has found time to develop the film recording the worst disaster he has ever seen. That morning, the newspaper will run his pictures and his eyewitness report.
If there's a hell on earth, then I have seen it tonight, and I hope never to see it again. I can't get it out of my mind. The acrid stench of burnt flesh. I remember people being lifted through broken windows, alive when they reached the streets, but dying. The relics of pure panic and terror. There are shoes everywhere, pocketbooks strewn about the streets, a corsage floating in a pool of water.
On Sunday, they came by the thousands to view the building that was little more than a massive tombstone, to hold a silent vigil. Everyone knew somebody who had been killed or injured. The city experienced a collective state of shock and grieved as one. The nation took the war off its front pages and joined hands with those who cordoned off the charred building. Newsreel film crews came to Boston to talk to survivors. One was Joyce Spector, who had been there with her fiancé, Justin Morgan.
As I went into the hallway, all I could see was black smoke in front of me, and people grabbing at each other's arms, almost to pull out each other's arms from the sockets.
My wife was ahead of me. We neared the exit where she fell. I went to pick her up. I had her lifted from the floor when the crowd in back arrived and pushed me down. I fell on top of her, and shortly after that, I was overcome by fumes.
The only exit that anybody knew of was a revolving door that you came in from the street. That exit was on fire, completely inflamed. It was horrible. People falling. I landed somewhere under a table and tried to get up, but the flames and the smoke was suffocating. I lay there stunned, and then realizing that I'd be burned to death or something, I started crawling, not knowing where I was crawling.
I found myself out in the street on the sidewalk. How I got out there, I don't know, but I'd give the only one I can give any credit to is the guardian angel that pulled me through.
My boyfriend had said he was going to follow, but he stood to beat out the flames and died in them.
The final count. Of the estimated 1,100 people who were at the Cocoanut Grove that night, 492 dead, more than 200 injured. Cigarette girl Bunny Leslie succumbed to the noxious fumes. Coat check girl Ann Latini escaped. Maitre d' Frank Balzerini, dead. Justin Morgan, on the eve of his induction into the Army, stayed to battle the flames in the Melody Lounge and was burned to death. His fiancée, Joyce Spector, miraculously survived with only minor injuries. Band leader Mickey Alpert and all but 3 of his band members escaped safely to the street. Buck Jones, 2 days after the fire, died of pulmonary edema. Estelle Balkan incredibly survives, escaping somehow through a service door. Clifford Johnson makes medical history. 6 months after doctors had given him up for dead, he makes a miraculous recovery. Clifford and Estelle, brought together that night by chance, would, for unknown reasons, never see each other again. In the aftermath of all great disasters, questions are asked, causes looked for, and blame assigned. And so it was with the Cocoanut Grove. As owner of the Cocoanut Grove, Barney Wilansky was indicted on 10 counts, including overcrowding, insufficient exits, and defective wiring. He was the only one sent to jail, convicted of negligence, conspiracy, and manslaughter. Of his 14-year prison sentence, he served 3 years, released from prison only when it was learned he was terminally ill with cancer. His last words to the press upon his release, "I wish I had died in that fire." Boston's Night of Terror has left its imprint on history. The images of that night remain, as do the new laws enacted as a direct result of the tragedy. Things we now take for granted were initiated as a result of this fire. Exit signs above all emergency doors. All exit doors to open outward, not inward, for easy access to the street. Fireproofing of all flammable materials. Hinged doors on either side of any revolving door. This alone could have saved 200 people who became trapped in the foyer. The death of 492 innocent people in less than 12 minutes changed forever the fire safety laws across the country. On November 28, 1942, a terrible lesson was learned. This is the legacy of the nation's worst nightclub disaster. Fire in the Cocoanut Grove.